Denuvo, the anti-cheat, anti-piracy DRM software that is commonplace in PC games that continues to be much maligned because of the negative impact that it has on gaming experiences, namely performance, loading times, and whatnot. This is a topic that has cropped up recently because the company behind Denuvo really wants you to be convinced that their DRM isn't, quote, evil. They insist that DRM is good for gaming and that its negative impacts are exaggerated. And before we delve into this article where the Denuvo company wants to make its case, I'd like to highlight all of the instances in which it's been highlighted that Denuvo does have an adverse impact on gaming performance. Let me remind you that a few years ago, Tekken 7's own director said straight up that Denuvo DRM is causing performance issues in Tekken 7. Beyond that, a lot of Capcom games feature Denuvo on PC. Back in 2020, it was reported that the removal of Denuvo DRM from the PC port of Devil May Cry 5 resulted in a tangible improvement in performance. Beyond that, reliable tech analysis outlets like Digital Foundry straight up discovered that the stories are true. The pirate version of Resident Evil Village, which excludes Denuvo, improves performance. And with Capcom's latest release, Resident Evil 4 Remake, it's been discovered that Denuvo DRM is causing performance issues on PC. This is a pattern of Capcom's that people wish would change. Capcom will launch their games with DRM, and then a couple months or a year or two later, they'll remove DRM once sales have peaked. But the majority of people who played the game when it first launched may experience loading times that are worse than they should be, or stutters that shouldn't be there as a result of Denuvo. And beyond Capcom titles, we have seen games like Rime run better and faster once Denuvo DRM was stripped out. Back in 2018, a YouTuber did an analysis on myriad games running on Denuvo and compared versions of the game that were running Denuvo and versions without, and there was a tangible difference in gaming performance. General trend of Denuvo impact is in two categories: loading times and sporadic yet severe spikes in frame time. The YouTuber known as Overlord Gaming back then tested 6 games: Dishonored, Dishonored 2, Deus Ex Human Revolution, Bulletstorm, Full Clip Edition, Motor Racer 4, and Rime. And across all 6 games, he found that there was a noticeable difference between the time spikes and the loading times of the Denuvo version versus the one without. The version without Denuvo just showed noticeably better technical performance. From the general public to YouTubers to outlets like Digital Foundry, they've all found evidence that DRM has a negative impact on PC gaming performance. That's not to say that Denuvo affects every game universally the same. Every game is impacted differently, some more severely than others. Sometimes Denuvo can fly by and not affect a game at all, but there are plenty of other times where Denuvo has definitely shown to negatively impact technical aspects of the game. But the company behind Denuvo is challenging all of these claims, stating that these tests are not reliable and that they will soon release a test to certain outlets that will allow them to see for themselves that the Denuvo DRM does not compromise the integrity of PC games that have Denuvo integrated in them. This article highlights a number of quotes from Chief Operating Officer of Video Games at Erdedo, the company that acquired Denuvo back in 2018. This executive's name is Steve Huyn, and he begins by highlighting that he's well aware of the reputation that Denuvo has, stating that in the pirating/cracking community, we're seen as evil because we're helping DRM exist and we're ensuring people make money out of games. It's not just within the pirating and cracking community, it's people who want to buy PC games and support developers, but who are getting a product that is inferior in its technical performance. People are fine with companies protecting their own products and pursuing anti-piracy measures, but when the execution of those methods results in everyone and people who bought the game legitimately being negatively impacted in technical performance and loading times and whatnot, and just having a lesser, more compromised experience, then you have to reevaluate your execution. It's not just the pirating and cracking community who hate Denuvo, it's the PC gaming community in general who cringe at the prospect of Denuvo DRM negatively impacting their experience. For products that they paid full price for. Despite widespread reports of the negative impact that Denuvo DRM seems to have on PC games, Waning stressed to ours that he sees Denuvo as a positive force for the gaming community, stating that anti-piracy technologies is to the benefit of the game publishers, but also is of benefit to the players in that it protects the publisher's investment, and it means that the publishers can then invest in the next game, but people typically don't think enough of that. Whether people want to believe it or not, we're all gamers, we love gaming, we love being a part of it, we develop technologies with the intent to make the industry better and stronger. What about protecting the customer's investment in the video games that they buy, ensuring that those games are of the utmost integrity, that they perform the best they can perform? Those extended loading times, those micro stutters that might be a result of Denuvo DRM, those are things that can cripple an experience, especially the frame time issues that might lead to games where high reflexes and a lot of action is involved that require precision. The precision getting compromised by the stutters and whatnot. Those kinds of issues can be woefully detrimental, especially for certain types of genres and games where that moment-to-moment action and the moment-to-moment reactivity has to be immediate, and those stutters can throw people off. And let's not pretend as if the biggest publishers out there right now aren't raking in record revenue, and a lot of that isn't from game sales, but rather microtransactions, sales, and the like. And let's not pretend as if the convenience of just buying these games and being able to have access to them without all of the hurdles you have to go through to pirate a game isn't making it so that the piracy scene is still small enough that in the grand scheme of things, most people are buying their games. They are willing to pay for just a better experience, a better service, and that ultimately makes up the majority of players and users of those games. And again, not to say don't pursue anti-piracy measures, just do it in a way where everyone else isn't impacted and don't have to suffer through longer loading times or through stutters just because you're trying to squeeze a few extra bucks out of, potentially pirated copies. Because at that point, the people who are purchasing these games legally are getting punished, and you're encouraging piracy because the pirated versions of the games run better because of their lack of Denuvo. So it's just counterintuitive to what Denuvo is actually trying to achieve. Publishers are making more than enough money to invest in their next game with all of the different editions that they're selling, all of the monetization schemes and tactics that they've come up with. That stuff cannot be pirated. And so, let's not pretend like, oh, boo-hoo, poor. Let's not go the boo-hoo, won't you think of the multi-billion-dollar corporations route with this conversation. Waning says here that they have the best of intentions, that they're developing these technologies with the intent to make the industry better and stronger. I'm not denying their intentions, but intention is one thing, execution is another. Right now, it damages consumers and players' experiences more than it helps companies avoid piracy. Now, when Ars Technica here brought up complaints surrounding Denuvo's negative impact on game performance, here's what Waning had to say. He implied that this kind of public analysis was not very useful because gamers almost never get access to the same version of a game, protected and unprotected. There might be over the lifetime of the game a protected and unprotected version, but these are not comparable because these are different builds over 6 months, many bug fixes, etc., which can make it better or worse. See, this is just a bad faith argument right here. The tests that have been done surrounding DRM, they've all been with the same version of the game. The only difference being one with DRM, one with Denuvo, and one without. Digital Foundry, again, did its own analysis and have found the same results using the same build of a game, just one with Denuvo and one without. People are not faking results by using an older build for the Denuvo version and using a newer build for the non-Denuvo version and then making this poor comparison between two different builds. They're using the same build. The only differentiating factor is whether there's Denuvo there or not. And for many of these tests, people have found that the game, the same build without Denuvo, just runs better. Waning treating PC players, the public, and outlets like Digital Foundry like they don't know what they're doing with their tests, it's just not a good look. Especially when we're not talking about one or two isolated instances, we're talking about multiple instances throughout the course of many years across numerous AAA games. And I'll remind you again that Tekken 7's own director, who talked about his own game, said that Denuvo DRM was the cause of performance issues with this game running on PC. That's not any old public analysis. That's the director of his own game straight up saying Denuvo is the issue. On top of insisting that all of the public tests out there done by individual players, by content creators, and by major outlets like Digital Foundry are not representative of Denuvo DRM's functionalities, he also said that I think there's a clear statement that there is no perceptible impact on gameplay because of the way we do things. He doubled down on the company's stance that Denuvo DRM has no negative impact on PC games whatsoever, despite all the evidence out there. Now, Waning is dead set on proving that Denuvo DRM does not have a negative impact on PC gaming performance, so his company, Erdetto, is working on a program that would provide two nearly identical versions of a game and distributing that to trusted media outlets, one with Denuvo protection and one without. After that program rolls out, hopefully sometime in the next few months, Waning hopes independent benchmarks will allow the tech press to see for yourself that the performance is comparable, identical, and that would provide something that would hopefully be trusted by the community. So immediately suspect is the fact that Erdetto is only going to specific, hand-picked, trusted media outlets to conduct these tests. This all just sounds like a very controlled environment where Erdetto is going to ensure that these tests yield specific results, whereas with all of the evidence and tests presented by the public, by content creators, by media outlets, all of that stuff was conducted in a realistic setting where Denuvo was implemented in games that have been distributed en masse, and anyone could test this out and yielded the result that Denuvo DRM did have a negative impact on performance. It's hard not to question the credibility of this test. It just feels like Erdetto is investigating itself and controlling the environment of the investigation to a T to ensure that the narrative goes in their favor. So I guess only time will tell which specific trusted media outlets they pick, how these tests are conducted, and what kinds of results they yield. We'll see if these tests are thorough, but it's hard to argue with the consistent results we've seen from Denuvo DRM in practice, in the real world, from Tekken 7 all the way to all of these Capcom games, alongside many others like Rhyme, and all of these titles that have been tested with DRM on and off, and there was a noticeable difference. We'll see how all of this plays out, but the ball is on Erdetto and Denuvo's court. The burden of proof lies with them. There's so much evidence out there from so many different sources about the negative impacts that Denuvo DRM has on PC gaming performance that it's like almost hard to deny. And Waning trying to downplay all of the evidence and tests out there by insisting that the tests didn't do basic due diligence, like ensuring that the games were the same version, like that doesn't give me confidence that Denuvo has honest intent with whatever test they want to conduct with their own controlled environment. But we'll see how this plays out, and I'll report back and see what people generally have to say about all of this. In the meantime, though, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Denuvo DRM, whether you think there's enough evidence out there to suggest that Denuvo has a negative impact on PC gaming performance, or do you think it's worth giving Waning and Erdetto and Denuvo the benefit of the doubt as they set up this test that will be sent out to specific media outlets? I'm willing to keep an open mind and see what they have to present and see if there's evidence there that might shine a new light on all of this. But for now, yeah, this is my take. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.